It's Christopher Wesley. Thank you for joining me for this first episode of Decoding the Character. The character that we're going to decode today is Rakel Wicklander, who's going to make her debut in the novel Gospel of Wolves, but also shows up in one of my short stories, Where All the Bodies Are Buried. The exhibition that we're going to decode her from is Mirror Flower. So let's take a look at what we're going to get into here. First, we're going to go into why I create in character. I'm going to give you the significance of the gallery setup that we're going into. I'm going to give you the significance of the artist that I'm decoding. I'm going to tell you what we know about Rakel going into the exhibition, spoiler free. And we're going to go into the gallery where you'll have the opportunity to join me as I decode the character. And you will have the option to ask me questions through chat as I do this. So, why creating character in the first place? Well, the thing is, it solves the problem of me having too many interests in far too little time. You see, I have dozens of story ideas in the making. I have 10 stories that I've began but not finished. I didn't have time to finish them, but I needed to at least get them on paper and get them rolling enough so that I didn't forget what I was trying to do with those stories. I also have dozens of art collections that I've not released yet. I have about 6 new collection ideas that I haven't even started yet. And lastly, I have 100 songs in demo form. So between the fact that I love making visual art, I love writing stories, and I love making music, I had to figure out some kind of way to bring them all together. That way, the skills that I develop as I'm working through the different creative mediums, I don't lose them, even though to do any single one of these things, I need to really concentrate my time on it. So like for the novel, it's taking me months to get this thing, to get the first draft done. Well, actually years. But in the past several months, it's been very tight focus and concentration on that. So in the development of it, I didn't have time to really do a lot with the visual art, didn't have a lot of time to do things with the music. But what I was able to do is incorporate the visual art in the music in small ways into the story. And when I have time later on, I can further develop those art collections that are referenced in the story, and I can further develop and finish the music that is related to the story. The goal here is at any given time, I need to concentrate on a specific medium. But while I'm working on that medium, I can take little breaks here and there to develop the other 2 areas and keep them all going, keep them all speaking to each other, and ultimately, hopefully, make a far more enriching experience, giving people who invest in this story world that I'm creating different ways that they can enjoy it and engage with it. The significance of the gallery that we're going to go into is there are 2 versions of it. So actually the name of the gallery is Gallery Pasadena. It's Ukrainian for fire, Pasadena is. And this gallery is owned by Maxim and Oksana. They're minor characters that will pop up in a variety of different stories. They have ties to 2 of the major characters in the Gospel of Wolves and a few of the minor characters as well. So the gallery is going to show up in a variety of stories. So I wanted to do the first exhibition within that space. That said, I have 12 more spaces that we'll decode characters through in future installments, but which one I choose will be dependent on the story and the artist the exhibition is based on. The significance of the artist I'm decoding. So Rakel Wicklander is another minor character that will appear in a variety of stories, and she's also going to be one of the main characters. She's one of the main characters in Where All the Bodies Are Buried. In the case of the novels, I like the idea that even the minor characters, or shall we say the supporting characters, are well-rounded, that they feel as complicated and as rich as the primary characters, even if the story isn't about them. So by creating the short stories and doing things like this that gives me more information about how the character behaves, it creates more, it gives them more depth. And that depth will show up in subtle ways. It'll be real easy to miss things perhaps on the first reading of the books, but in future installments, or things will come together a little bit more, or if you read the same book more than once on future reads, you'll get a little bit more information each time. So what we know about Rakel going into the exhibition: I first started investigating her with the short story Where All the Bodies Are Buried, and I anticipate releasing that to my mailing list in 2021. It's one of the stories that I began, but I haven't quite finished it. In that story, no spoilers, we start with Rakel and her husband. They've moved to Spain suddenly and briefly, which you'll know by reading The Gospel of Wolves, is upon returning to America, they immediately formed Curious Tech, a technology collective that serves diverse clients across the world, along with serving as a next generation technology incubator. You'll also get hints from some of the flash fictions I've created that she miscarried her first pregnancy. So let's go ahead and get into the gallery. So one of the main things about Rakel is I wanted to go abstract. In a lot of ways, I had to actually change the way I view art, because in general, I'm not a big fan of abstract art. I often go into galleries and feel like, well, anybody could have created that, and I don't understand what the hell it's supposed to be, or me. But the thing is, I needed to create different art styles that would become recognizable based on the character. So for the people that engage with the stories, the flash fictions, that go deeper into the story world, I want them over time to be able to just see a piece of art and say, oh, I know that's that character. I know this is Rakel, or I know that this is Lindsay, or yeah, that's obviously Lucienne. So going into the gallery, the first thing that strikes me is this piece right here, Imminence. For this piece, what I'm getting from it within the context of what I know about Rakel is she lives in a world of technology. And the fact that she's using flowers, for me, it tells me that she's not lost her humanity, that even though she's doing things primarily in technology, there's a piece of her that still holds on to nature. That said, the piece next to it, Distinction, feels alien. Mm-hmm. Even though it's, you say, natural, the way it's constructed, it feels a little bit off. It's something I guess I explored a little bit in Where All the Bodies Are Buried, but in here, seeing this piece, it makes me think that there's a darkness to her, and maybe something that's, maybe something about her that she hasn't really quite resolved within herself. And what I get with these, by making these observations with the art, it helps inform me the way she behaves in the story. So the way she interacts with people, I use a lot of subtext, and especially in the dialogue. And so things like this, like the fact that maybe there's something about her that she hasn't quite accepted about herself, that there's just this internal conflict, it will show up in the way that she interacts with other characters, especially if I've made a determination on what it is that she's kind of struggling with. So that if someone someone brings something up about that thing or just touches that nerve, she'll react to it. And it'll be consistent throughout the stories. And eventually will turn into a reveal. So with this piece, with Generosity, and actually not that one, this one, both of them, they feel like, again, a little bit alien, but something almost human about it. It's like here I see the eyes, the nose, semblance of a chin, perhaps no mouth. And going back, Again, same thing, eyes, semblance of a nose, kind of in an impression maybe of a mouth. And it makes me feel like there's something, it's a little bit back to the humanity thing, but given that she's in technology, that I'm starting to feel like she's one of the people pushing for the technology to have an emotional component. So we have three major developments happening in technology today. That's the artificial intelligence, the neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, and the last one being machine learning. Between those three types of technology, we have people programming, coding the technology, the software, to have emotion or to exhibit a semblance of emotion. And this art makes me think that maybe she's one of those proponents that is pushing for that. So taking these pieces all together, I feel like she's very much in touch with her femininity. And these pieces in particular are a statement, almost like planting a flag on that. In the stories, just like in reality, there aren't a lot of women in technology. I wanted to honor the fact that we have women that are making pioneering steps to this day and having to fight harder than they should, having to prove themselves more than they should. And so I want to keep her, I want to be true to that as much as I can and bring that struggle to her character and to some of the situations that she finds herself in. And this last piece, especially, is one where the jagged edges of it is an expression of her displeasure. I think is a nice way to put it. With the situation she finds her, or situations she finds herself in. I've already figured out that, she's not a coder. She's not a hacker. There are people in her organization that are far better at that kind of stuff than her. But what she does do is she brings with her a sense of being able to connect dots that no one else in the room can connect. And that is where she brings value that no one else can. That she can find opportunities with the things that they're creating that if she weren't in the room, these opportunities wouldn't be exploited, and the company itself and the different things that they produce wouldn't be as successful as what they're actually ultimately going to become. So on this wall, honor to me feels like almost like a badge. Both of these two in their own way feels like natural kind of medals of honor, like medals that she's earned, almost like earning her stripes in the military or something, that she's the type of things that she's lived through, she's expressing in the art in a way that maybe other women would understand, that she's actually acknowledging her rank and expressing that to the world in her way. So these three pieces, kindness, fidelity, and candor, for me are speaking more about her home life, more about the personal side of herself. This kind of, for me, goes back to the fact that she had lost her child. And, well, no, that's a spoiler. I won't say that. But we'll say that these pieces go in a little bit of a different direction. They're more personal for her, and within the story world, the people who purchase these, she will have more of a personal connection with. It's in a way that they're bringing into their home a piece of her that it's like knowing her on a deeper level. It's like having a conversation with her that goes much deeper than just how she earns her money. We've already spoken about imminence, but authority, ennoblement, and crown, all of these, to me, go a little bit back to the idea. So these are all succulents. These are all plants that can survive with very little water. And for me, that kind of speaks to her resilience, her ability to survive the different things that she's had to survive through life and still come out with hope. Because I think that's one of the most difficult things to do, is to actually withstand the hard times and still be able to come out with a positive attitude, which she has. Together as an entire collection, the reason that I called it Mirror Flower is because all of these images were produced using mirror images. In some cases, like with Authority, just a single image cut in half. With an Ennoblement, it's a single image that was cut in half two different times. But as a whole, the entire collection serves to highlight the fact of, we get to choose what we reflect in the world, and what we choose really affects everyone that's around us, more so than what we think. So in some of these cases, what's reflected is perhaps pretty, at least for me, like in the case of Ennoblement, or a little bit ugly, because to me, distinction is just a little bit ugly. I'd say that's about all I'd have from this for decoding.